Okay, as always, guys, on the right bottom corner you have hand with the status. So if something goes wrong or you want to say something very important, please use this. This give us indication that someone want to say something, or something is wrong. Yeah, and my name is Krzysztof Wojciechowski, and for today I will be presenting you make an intro for Perfecta panels. So yeah, there will be a lot of nice things. With me there is a Jacek Berkowski and Bartosz Piotrowski that will help me with the all chat and all the questions and answers. So guys, if you have any kind of questions, especially related with Perfecta, but of course anything else, you can ask on the chat and they will answer you as fast as possible. And yeah, if everyone is ready, everyone have prepared coffee. Yeah, and of course about the planning, and today we will go with intro about Perfecta. There will be more like slides and information regarding what Perfecta is and the possibilities. But for tomorrow, there will be additional webinar, how to program Perfecta from the beginning. So you will have every single part of the panel explained, and Perfecta soft, how to configure it, how to program it. And I think this will close all the questions regarding how to install Perfecta. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's start this webinar. And yeah, so Perfecta was designed as the entry-level security system. So it's small for the small and medium installation. It supports up to 2 partitions and up to a maximum 32 zones. In this family of panels, we have 5 different types that you can see. The Perfecta, of course, by the name. Perfecta is, of course, the range of the panel. The prefix with the number 1632 is the information about the maximum amount of zones. So you can expand it up to 16 or up to 32. On board, there is 8 zones. So this is very, very important. You will see that there is also Perfecta like on the left side in the middle. So you have Perfecta without additional prefix like WRL. WRL means wireless. So this panel has a possibility to use wireless detectors, sensors, sirens, and keypads, and of course key fobs. So there is a wireless module on board, as you see on the left side with the antennas and all the stuff. So this is what WRL means. There is also Perfecta T. It means that it doesn't have a GSM GPRS unit on board, but it supports PSTN line modem. So you can use it with the PSTN telephone lines as many other old versions of a panel, but of course we also needed to implement this part. And there are 2 Perfecta 32 LTE and WRLTE. It means that it supports not 2G but 4G respectively for this unit. If, for example, your country will close GPRS, so 2G soon, then you can use already a LTE solution. And nevertheless, all of them will be mostly the same thing, but the few things like wireless or type of GSM GPRS device on board, modem on board. Okay, so most important for us, the idea that was when we were creating and programming or creating and developing Perfecta, for us was very important few things. First of all, grade 2. So it's fully compatible with the grade 2 installations and all the requirements regarding grade 2. And as you see tomorrow, I hope, there is only one tick to change all the configuration and to be fully compatible with the grade 2. So it's quite fast and easy in this case. It supports wireless devices because we found out that in many installations, especially the small and medium ones, the most important aspect is also time of installation. So if you have a possibility to use a wired, yeah, go ahead, it will be fine. But in many cases, you don't have time or the possibilities to use a wired system. So that's why you can use always wireless solution. So wireless detectors, sensors, sirens, keypads, etc. On board, in most cases, but not of course Perfecta T, you have GSM GPRS module, because we found out that with the wireless system, in most cases you won't have a PSTN line on very close to the panel. So GSM GPRS units speed up in the installation part, but also give you a full communication with the module. So this is very, very important, especially if you are using a mobile application in Perfecta Control. Voice communicator, of course, there is a possibility to install it for the older investors, older users that are not that keen with mobile applications, the smartphones. So you still have a possibility to use a voice communicator, so voice messages. Audio verification, this is also something that from the previous panels that we use. And yeah, you can connect microphone to the panel and listen what is happening on site as the additional audio verification if your site requires it. SATEL connection, yeah, you can use SATEL server for the communication with the panel. So this will give you a possibility to use it and connect without any addition configuration requires static IP address, etc., etc. So you just mark one option, and then you are able to connect with the panel remotely without any additional configuration parts from the routers, modems, etc., etc., and especially GSM providers. Mobile application, yes, we will be talking about it a little more later on. There is a specially designed mobile application for Perfecta Control. It is quite easy to understand, to learn it, and you can use it to control whole the system. And most used right now notification is the push, more and more having a bigger impact on the market, because you have in your mobile phone most of the notifications are right now push, like banks, etc. So we also implemented a push notification in the panel to speed up the information and of course make it cheaper. So where to install Perfecta? You can use it in the small and medium size installation, so shops like corner shops, kiosks, and all this stuff. House apartments, because it supports up to 2 partitions. So you can, for example, use one partition for the main house and second partition for the guest house or for garage or anything else as you like. And of course, public buildings, if they require just a security system, it will be also fine to use it because of the speed of the installation, of course. Yeah, speed of installation. Perfecta give you a lot of possibilities and a lot of flexibility, because you are able to use a wired system and a wireless system. So it doesn't matter if you're lucky and you can create a project before there is already they finished walls, etc. So you can put cables and wires. Then it's also fine. But if you are too late with the installation, so they already closed all the walls, you are able still to use a wireless solution for the communication for the installation of the security system. And of course, in many cases, project is one thing, and what is happening on site later on is different, like the changing of the specification of the room where you install it. You can always use a hybrid, so you can part of the system is wired and part of the system is wireless. This is required. About partitions, Perfecta supports up to 2 partitions, but and as the old installations, it was quite common to use 2 partitions to configure day and arm or full and night arms in the security system. So you would use a one partition as the floor or ground floor, and then second partition as the first floor, like bedrooms, etc. So you can, of course, use this like this, but I think I will advise you to use one partition for one side, because every single partition has 3 different types of arming. So you have full arm, day arm, and the night arm. And you can assign zones to this type of arming. And then when you see a keypad, you have also icons in there like day, like sun, moon, etc. So this will give an end user understanding what he's arming for day, for night, and he can use his own code for it. So it's for most sites, you will use one partition, but of course you have additional second partition for, again, for guest house, garage, or whatever you want, or second house if you prefer to use it, and of course have full functionality of different types of arming like day and night. So on board in Perfecta, in all Perfecta, doesn't matter what the size of Perfecta is, you have 8 different, you have 8 zones. You can expand it up to 32, of course in Perfecta 32, by INTE modules. So you can use the same modules that you use from Integra panel to connect them to Perfecta, and then have a possibility to expand wired zones. About outputs, you have 4 wired outputs on board, 2 high voltage, 2 low voltage, but you can expand it up to 12 outputs, wired ones. So you can use INTO or INTORS. INTO, again, is from the Integra panel module with the 8 outputs, simple, normal outputs. But INTORS, this is the quite interesting expander. It has 8 relays, 230 volts, 16 amperes. So you can use them to control lights, shutters, garage doors, sprinklers, whatever you want, because of the 230 volts possibilities. And of course, in addition, in the WRL, you can expand you can add 4 different sirens, wireless sirens, without using any wired restrictions. So up to 12 outputs and additional 4 wireless sirens, MSP 300. Of course, if you want, you can use output to control sirens, but you can also use them for something else, like by using INTORS, you can control lights, you can control shutters, garage doors, heating, or sprinklers. Doesn't matter which one you want, but of course you can use a keypad for it, key fob, or mobile application to control it. Especially with the mobile application, this is quite interesting feature because you don't need to be close to the object to be able to, for example, to turn on heating even before you come to site. So if you have this in your holiday house, you can from the mobile application turn on the heating that you are able to come on the holiday house, and it's already prepared for you to be able to walk in. About the power supply, there is 2 types of outputs in there. You have KPD for power supply for the keypads, wired keypads, of course, and expanders. But also you have AUX output. There are 2 outputs like this, but they are connected to each other, and that give you a power supply for any kind of detectors and other stuff. Both of them give you a 0.5 ampere, so you can use them as the power supply for devices connected to the board. Perfecta supports up to 4 keypads, so you can use 4 wired keypads, 4 wireless keypads, or mix them together. So you can use, for example, in this case, 2 wired ones, 2 wireless, and you are ready to go. Of course, wireless you can use only with the Perfecta WRL. With the wireless devices, there is 2 types of communication. First of all, it all works on 433 megahertz encrypted transmission, but there is a two-way communication and one-way communication. One-way communication we are using with any kind of detector, but also with the key fob. So there is a one-way communication from the detector to panel, but of course with the sirens and with keypads, we are using two-way communication for communication with all the keypad, especially with the keypad. This is very important because then give you a possibility in the keypad to configure every single part in the system, even if it's wireless. Yep, I was talking about it. So Perfecta control, you can also control it by the SMS. So if you are not using mobile application or you want to use something, some kind of additional functionality, you can also use SMS. So one of the cases how to use it, you can use you can connect panel to gate in front of your company, and then if someone sent SMS with the password or with the command, then they can open the gate remotely, even if they are not close to panel. So this will give you a possibility to use additional possibilities. But of course, I will always advise to use mobile application because it's easier to use and less writing in the, or at least with the SMS, especially that you have a feedback what is happening on site. So there is a Perfecta control application that you can download from Google Play or iOS. Yeah, so it works on Android and iOS. And then you have all the information like status of the partition, like house and garage, with all the information, what is happening in there. If they are, for example, armed, or if there is alarm from this partition. You have all information about the event log, so you can check the history of the system, what was wrong, or yeah, and of course you can filter this information that, for example, for you is most important when your employees disarm the system to check when they come to site to check to start working. For example, there is one of the examples how you can use it. Of course, troubles in the system. This is quite important that you have full information what is happening. And then, of course, you have menu that you can choose from, information about the status of the zones, and outputs. In addition, you can control outputs and, for example, block zones if you want to leave, for example, open window for the arming time when you arm the system. So you can block the zones, or you can remotely control outputs and, for example, trigger hitting in the previous example. To be able to connect with the mobile application, I will advise to use a QR code that you can read from the Perfecta soft. And then by reading this QR code, all the information about the name of the panel, email, control, panel ID will be populated from the QR code. So then you just need to put a user password and you're ready to go. So even for the people, for the users that are not too keen with the technology and the smartphones, it will be quite easy to populate, especially because there is a lot of information. The number, for example, ID is unique, so you need to put a lot of numbers. I will advise to use QR code in general. Of course, you can use a SATEL server to allow you to communicate with the panel, so it speed up the communication and how you communicate with the panel. But also you can receive then a push notification. And then you will receive all the things, all the events that happen on site, you will receive on your phone as the push notification. Of course, you can, as the notification, you can also use SMS. And this will also be quite interesting part because all the information inside SMS will be filled from event log. So, for example, if you name your users Adam, Thomas, etc., then you will receive information that Adam armed partition 1 or Adam armed house, etc., etc. So you don't need to fill all the SMS notification who do what, but this all will be filled from the event log. So also it speeds up the installation. Of course, you can, with the voice messaging, you can use functionality text to speech. Then, for example, from the Windows, this information will be taken from text, and by using TTS implemented in the Windows, it will change it to the voice or to the sound, and then import it to the panel, so you will be able to hear the message. But of course, if you like your voice and you want to use it for your end user, you can also implement a wave notification, wave sounds. So you just put a wave inside the system, and yeah, you are ready to go. With the radio communication, as we talk about it, up to 32 detectors with, of course, Perfecta 32 WRL. But please remember that 8 zones are on board, but you can use you can still use them as the wireless. So on board will stop working, and then you will use them as the full range of 32 wireless detectors. And of course, you can use 4 wireless siren, 4 wireless keypads, and up to 15 key fobs. Every user is able to have one key fob. So you have 15 users, so 15 key fobs. About the range of the wireless, for siren, key fobs, and other detectors, you will be able to have up to 400 meters in the open area. And with the keypads and MSD 300, so this is a smoke and heat detector, you will be able only to up to 200 meters because of the restriction of the device, especially with the keypads. There is a two-way communication that needs to be as fast as possible for the easy of the use of the system. Okay. About GSM GPRS SMS communication, so you can use GPRS for the communication with the Perfecta control and push notification. So for the end user, you can use to remotely connect by the Perfecta soft to configure system remotely. So this is give you a possibility to solve many issues or requirements from the end user remotely without need to go there. And of course, you can connect with the monitoring station by using GPRS. With the GSM, you can, of course, use, again, for the monitoring station, but also for the voice messaging, audio verification, and control, and SMS messaging. About GPRS, please remember that by using using GPRS, you will use data transfer. So at least in our test, we found out by using SATEL server that all the time communicates with the SATEL servers. And of course, controlling the security system with the mobile application. So normal usement of the security system like arm disarm twice a day. We found out that it takes 2 months up to 120 megabytes of the transfer. Please remember that, of course, this could be higher depending how much you are using it, but I will advise to use at least 200 megabytes as the communication on the SIM cards as the data transfer, and I think it will be more than enough to be able to communicate without any restrictions with the panel. On board with the GPRS and GSM module, we support 2 SIM cards. This is and only one of them is connected to a GSM provider at the same time. So if one will be something wrong with it, like not enough credits or something wrong with the provider, then it's switched to the second one and use the second user or second provider. Very simple. Yeah. Also, we design our own antenna for the GSM. for many reasons. First of all, our antenna have a little more gain, so the signal is stronger, but also we are able to use it inside the box, so you don't need to protect the external parts like antenna and the system. Everything fits inside the box. Box is plastic, so it's the wireless communication goes without any problems, and you know that the panel is secured and antenna is also secured for the external communication. In addition to our panel, we are supporting USSD codes. This is most common if you are using in your country prepaid cards. So you need to control the amount of credit on card. So you can use it. You can control it by USSD code from your phone, but also you can configure panel to check every day about the credit amount, and if it's lower than some threshold that you describe, then panel will send to you an SMS with the information that the credit is low. Please top up your card. Depending on the country requirements and of course end user, but give you additional solution to many cases to forget to top up your prepaid card. But of course, you can connect with the panel you can configure panel from the keypad. So you have full menu and all the options you can find in the keypad. So for the older installers, sometimes it's easier to configure it like this. But of course, you can always use a Perfecta soft to configure it. And I think it will be easier and faster. But we find out that there is still many installers that prefer to use keypads for the programmation, especially if the sites are very similar to each other and you just change few options because big part of the panel is already pre-configured as the default. Of course, you can use a remote update with our Upserve software. So you are able to remotely send update to every panel, and yeah, it's not required for you to go to site and change and make an update on every single one. You can do it remotely. Okay, few comparison between the different types of Perfecta. So you have Perfecta 1632 as the wired ones. You have Perfecta 16 WRL 32 WRL. This is the wireless solution. So you have up to 16 zones or 32 respectively, and of course could be wired or wireless. Please remember that if you are using Perfecta 16 without wireless solution, and for some reason you will need to implement new wireless devices, please remember that you will need to replace the whole panel and change it to Perfecta WRL to be able to implement. There is no additional external module to be able to connect and give a wireless to wired the device. There is one exception. This is for the key fobs. You can connect INT wireless key fob from the Integra panel module. So yeah, you are able to use it, but not for this sirens, keypads and detectors. You are not able. You will need to change panel to WRL. Okay, depending on your country and of course on your distributor, you can buy Perfecta as the simple one. So you have a panel, you have GSM antenna, and of course you have OPU4P enclosure. So you are ready to go. You just need a battery, transformer, and one of the keypads to be able to work, and of course some kind of sirens and detectors, and you are ready to go. But of course, depending on the country, there is also a possibility to buy a kit like Perfecta kit. So then you will have everything in one box. So you will have Perfecta control, GSM antenna, and plastic enclosure as previously, but also inside there is a transformer, wireless magnetic contact, two wireless PIR with the PET functionality, wireless keypad, and wireless siren. And this is in very nice box that you can sell without any problems. Many countries already use it, but of course, if you want to sell Perfecta kit, not the previous one, but this one, then just contact our export department, and I think they will be happy to help you with it. About expansion options, of course, there is a lot of possibilities. You have a full range of the detectors, sirens, wired and wireless, of course, and expanders module that we will be talking about in a few minutes. So expanders. So as I told you before, if you want to expand to wired detectors or wired system, you can use INTE. So maximum for Perfecta 16, 1 INTE, because 8 zones is on board, so additional 8 to fill up to 16. And of course, in 32, you will be to maxed out wired ones, you will use 3 INTE to have 32. With the INTO and INT-ORS, this is outputs expanders. INTO, this is a relay, simple relay, low voltage relay for system, but also INT-ORS is the 8 relays for 230 volts, 16 amperes that you can that is mounted on the DIMM rail, so you can put it in the fuse box and control all the system or all electric parts from Perfecta. You have different types of wired detectors. Of course, we have full range. If you join us already on the Slimline last week, then for sure you know that you can use a Slimline with it. But of course, there is external detectors, smoke and heat detectors, wired ones, of course, that you can use with the system. To be honest, anything works there. One requirement is just if you are using end of line, then you use 1K1 for the system, at least with resistors. And of course, you can use this full range of wired internal and external sirens with the system. I think this is quite clear. As the wireless, so we have different types of detectors. We have contact detectors, we have glass break detectors, we have flood detectors, we have smoke and heat detector that you can use, and of course PIR with the PET immunity built in, so you can use all this type of detectors with it. Of course, wireless external siren and key fobs. Maybe I will add something to wireless. Of course, there is keypads, up to 4 keypads wireless that you can add to the system. Okay, to summarize it up, the biggest advantages in the Perfecta is cost-effective solution, because the price is very low for the system, but also this goes with the fast and quick installation. This gives you a lot of possibilities to install not 1, 2 security system per day, but for example 4 or 5, because I hope I will show it tomorrow, the configuration, how fast you configure system. I think this will be self-explanatory, that you will save time. By saving the time on the one installation, you can do more installation per day. Quite simple. Additional part is the flexible customization. So it doesn't matter if you go on site and something changed before you try to sell or create a project for the security system, and when you are already on site, adding additional wireless devices or adding additional expanders, you are able to expand the system or make it for the end user that he's happy what he bought from you. And of course, you can earn more for the expanding. Easy programming. I will advise to use software, Perfecta Soft, for the configuration, because it's easier and faster. But of course, you can always use a keypad for it. It's also possible because there is a number of shortcuts to be able to go to functions that you like. And effective notification, SMS and push notification. So most common use notification, but also voice in here is quite important because push notification in general is just one sound and it's done. It's on your telephone. But if you connect this with push notification with the voice, then you have full information what happened on the push, but also voice as the telephone will ring for 30 seconds, just to give you information that you need to check your phone. Quite simple, but also quite effective. Okay, guys, I think that's all, at least for the introduction. Tomorrow will be more into technical parts. So we will program Perfecta, and this will give you a lot of information how to do it and how fast the configuration goes. Yes, so if you have any questions, I see there is already a few of them. So we can go to, I will try to answer a few of them at least. Yeah. Okay, so if we have any questions in here, I see my colleagues already answer many of them. No, you don't need. You have 4. The question is, to control the gate and the lights, you need extra module. No, you don't need one. You have 4 outputs on board. 2 high voltage, 2 low voltage open collector. So you can use them to control anything as anything. But always I will advise to make a galvanic separation between the system, like garage controller or anything else, by using some kind of relay, even cheap, you know, like €1 or €0.5 relay, just to make a galvanic separation between the system. But if it's 1 or 2 things that you want to control, like gate, I think I will use the simple one. But if you go for anything that is going more than 2 relays or more 2 configuration, or you will be working with 230 volts, I will go with INT-ORS, and yeah, you have 8 relays for it, so it's easier to connect and to use it. But no, you don't need to use external module. Okay, hi from Greece. Hi, Greece. I want to ask you if we send SMS, for example, to open a gate, if this SMS will be written in the event list, and please give us example how it will be written. Okay, I won't be able today to give you example how it will be in the event log. This we will cover tomorrow. So please join us tomorrow. I think I will be able to explain this more in depth. But you can send SMS, and first of all, you can receive a confirmation that you sent SMS. But also in the event log, there is information that there is on the panel there is information about the SMS control. So there was receiving some kind of SMS for the control the outputs. What is the maximum number of smoke detectors I can connect to Perfecta panel? Okay, maximum amount of smoke, wired or wireless. Okay, doesn't matter. You can use wired or wireless detectors up to 32. So you can use every single zone as the one smoke detector. Quite simple. Okay, next question. How does the panel communicate to the monitoring center by the GSM? Does the monitoring center require a special receiver or gateway to receive the connection from the system? Okay, as all our modules, we support most common use different types of communication. So as the medium of the communication, you can use GSM, so the voice, so the DTMFs. You can use SMS or GPRS communication, so the internet connection. Respectively, depending on the monitoring station, they will require some kind of receiver. So if you're using voice messaging, voice, messaging, so reporting. So then you will need some kind of module to receive the call with and to be able to hear the information. The same goes for the SMS. You need some kind of GSM gate to receive the SMS, and of course for the internet connection. We have our own monitoring station also, so you can use our monitoring station. But nevertheless, we are supporting all the communication types like 4x2, so Ademco Express, Silent Night, so the old standards. We support contact ID, so most commonly used right now, and SIA also, SIA IP, especially with the GPRS, so you are able to use most common communication types with the monitoring station. But of course, it depends on the monitoring station. They need to have some kind of module or receiver to receive this information. I hope I answered the question. Okay, let's go for the next question. Can we have recording of, well, let's go back. Of this webinar, because I have just joined in. Yes, this webinar is recorded. I'm not sure if it will be available on our website or on our YouTube. I think in the next few days, our marketing department will share with you this information and maybe put a newsletter with links for our webinar. So I hope it will be available quite soon, but for this we will need to wait. But very good questions. Okay, next, in case of lost communication, can SATEL server send a notice to monitoring station, same as we receive push notification on mobile? A SATEL server is not in the middle of the monitoring station communication. Normally, monitoring station has their own receivers that have a public IP address that you communicate directly to them. They are, in general, with the monitoring station, they are not using any kind of in-middle communication because panel is connecting to monitoring station. The problem with that solves SATEL server is that the GSM modems or GPRS modems doesn't have a public IP address in general. They use GSM providers doesn't like to share this. Of course, there are some that you can buy this type of functionality from the provider, but in general, they don't have it. So it will be hard for your mobile telephone connect to panel that doesn't have IP address. In this part helps SATEL server that is just a middleman to connect the mobile application or your Perfecta soft with panel without need of public IP address. That's why we are using SATEL server, and monitoring station doesn't use a middleman like SATEL server. Do I have to register Perfecta on your server to use push, or I can connect without registration? No, you will need to use a SATEL server to push notification because SATEL server also is a push notification server, at least the functionality that will connect to push notification server from Android or iOS and then show up on your telephone. Yeah. So you will need to use Perfecta control to be able to receive and SATEL server, respectively, to use push notification. Remote control, how many sensor panels they can work? One remote control. I hope you are talking about mobile application. I think there is no limitation in there. To be honest, I never was able to find the limitation, but maybe my colleagues will have information about how many panels you can connect with mobile application. Give me 1 second. I will come back to this question later. I don't just I never found a limitation, and I have a lot of them. So I will come back to this question later. Can you mix wired and wireless with the 32 WRL? And yes, you can mix. You have up to 32 zones, and you can mix them wired and wireless. So you can use like 8 wired and 24 wireless. You can turn it around 24 wireless and 24 wired and 8 wireless. Doesn't matter. You have 32 zones that you can mix them up as you like. It could be wired or wireless. Quite simple. Okay, as I see in the information, the limit about the amount of sites on your mobile application, the limit is amount of free space on your telephone. So you can add as many as you like, to be honest. And my colleague said that maybe you was talking about key fobs. So you have up to 15 key fobs that you can add. So every single user, so 15 users have 15 key fobs to be able to use. Okay, I see the question about the SATEL server. No, it's not a DDNS server, because DDNS server is not is different solution that's giving you almost the same functionality, because DDNS server gives you a possibility to connect to public network with the public IP address, but dynamic. So it means that every, for example, 24 hours, the IP will change, but there is IP. That's why DDNS solved this issue. But SATEL server is not DDNS server. It's working a different way, that you don't need at all public IP address, and still will be able to connect. In general, it works like this. When connection between your panel, like Perfecta, is all the time connected with the SATEL server by sending very small amount of data, like the pool information that I'm here, and the server, okay, fine, come back to me in 20 seconds. And this connection is established and working all the time, like all day, 24 hours per day. And then when you connect with mobile application, you connect to SATEL server, and SATEL server, because it has already connection with the Perfecta, with the panel, is able to connect both of them together, and that's why you have a possibility to connect. DDNS server only works with the dynamic public IP address. Our SATEL server works with any kind of network without public IP address or dynamic, doesn't matter. It will work. Okay, next question. Is SATEL server cloud-based, or will it need to be running in your office, customer, to push notification? No, it's the cloud-based solution. So SATEL server is supported, and it's as the SATEL company servers and few others, because I think we have 8 of them right now or something like this working. And yeah, it's free of charge. You don't need to put anything inside your customer. You just connect. To be honest, from your side as the installer and end user, you just mark 3 options, like connect with the SATEL server via Perfecta control, connect with your SATEL server via Perfecta soft, and push notification, and you're ready to go. You don't need to pay for anything else. It's free of charge, and it's on our servers, so there is no requirements from the end user to implement some kind of servers. You don't need anything like this. If this is offline, will the push notification stop? If it's offline, yes, push notification will stop, but we are using not one server. This is 8 or even more servers right now. And yeah, so if one goes down, you have still 7 to mitigate and to still have connection with your devices. 1 second. One more thing, if the panel is offline for some reason, the SATEL server, the server from this will send to you a notification that you lost connection with the panel. So there is no communication between the panel and the server. Okay, to control panel Perfecta panels, can I put one key fob to work both of them with one? Yes, key fobs communicate in one direction. So so it shouldn't be any problem to add them the same one key fob to 2 different panels or even more. Only one thing, I wouldn't advise if the 2 panels are in the same range of the key fob and you differently program key fob like the button to arm and disarm, because one will be arming and in the other, the same signal will go. So I wouldn't advise this part, but nevertheless, you can use the same key fob for many panels. To be honest, I'm using like this, so yeah, it works for sure. Okay, next questions. Next question. Yeah. On the side now, Envision UK has not provided me with the link for tomorrow programming webinar. How can I get this registration, please? Okay, guys, registration. I will copy paste the registration address. Give 1 second in the chat. So if you just give me 1 second, I will try to do it. And you can always use this one for tomorrow, but I will need to fast log in. And for tomorrow, Perfecta programming. Okay. Guys, I think here you go. This is registration for tomorrow if you want. So you can use this on this link for tomorrow. Okay. Does SATEL server notify the app if it loses connection with the panel? Yes, it will. Yes, it will after 30 minutes. So you will have information. Alrighty. Is there any possibility to have a test every 10 minutes, something like polling, for example, for the station? Is there also a possibility to have the global SIM which works with yes and yes? Depending on what type of communication you are using with the monitoring station, you can have a polling if you are using GPRS communication. So it will work as polling as any other panel with the new possibilities with the GPRS. Yes, with the global SIM that we tested, yes, it will work. I know, for example, that I was working with the with CSL, for example, and it works fine without any problems. And we tested this in UK and in Ireland, and of course in Poland I also tested it, so it works fine with the global SIM. No, no, and yes and no. To be honest, can Perfecta work with ABAX and ABAX2 wireless devices? Yes and no. If you are using Perfecta WRL, then you can't use this built-in device because this is the different types of the wireless communication. One in the Perfecta is 433, ABAX2 is 868. They won't communicate with each other. But you can use ACU120 and add it as the standalone unit by using output and inputs to connect ABAX device. So I didn't found a site that will use it, but yes, you can because of the possibility of ABAX2 and ACU120. Why is there 2 SIM card slots? If using world, SIM cards will be unlocked on network, or is it possible to have? Okay, I know that right now it's quite common in many countries to use a global or world SIM cards. But in many cases, in many countries, they are not that common. And because of the modem that we put in, Perfecta is able to support up to 2 SIM cards. Slot is quite cheap in general because it's a piece of metal, and give you additional possibilities to be able to fit in more countries. So you can use or one card as the world SIM card, or you can use 2 SIM cards as you like, but gives you additional possibilities. Okay, guys, there's a lot of questions about the wireless devices. Any signal extender to develop, like ARU? If yes, when that will be available in the market? I know that it will be. I know that I think we already work on it. I didn't test it. I'm not in the group of the testers for it, but it will be available soon. I can't give you right now the very exact date. This will be available soon. Sorry that I can't give you more information about it because I don't have right now information when exactly. Okay, guys, I see the question ended. So I'm happy to say that thank you very much for your attendance. I hope you learn a little bit, at least from what Perfecta can do. Tomorrow we will go with the information, more technical information about how it works and how to configure it. So yeah, thank you very much, and thank you Jacek and Bartek for helping me to solve more of the technical question on the chat. If you didn't receive some kind of registration or anything like this, go in the our chat. On top you will see a link for registration for tomorrow webinar. And thank you guys, and I hope to see you soon. So tomorrow. Thanks. Cheers.